Greetings, administrators and parents of our wonderful Rex Mills STEAM School. My name is Brian Fredricks, and I am the orchestra teacher, part of the Fine Arts Department of our legendary Connections team. Today I will describe to you the context and lesson plan for a problem-based learning, or PBL, project the 8th grade orchestra students will complete before the end of this 9-week grading period. In 2014, the National Music Standards updated in the National Core Art Standards. The following essential questions, standards, and enduring understanding guided the PBL. Essential question A: how do musicians make meaningful connections to creating, performing, and responding? Essential question B: how do the other arts, other disciplines, contexts, and daily life inform creating, performing, and responding to music? And Standard 8A, demonstrate how interests, knowledge, and skills relate to personal choices and intent when creating, performing, and responding to music. Enduring understanding A, musicians connect their personal interests, experiences, ideas, and knowledge to creating, performing, and responding. Standard 8A, demonstrate understanding of relationships between music and other arts, disciplines, varied contexts, and daily life. And enduring understanding B, understanding connections to varied contexts and daily life enhances musicians creating, performing, and responding. The terminal learning objective for this music career problem-based learning activity was: students will relate artistic ideas and works with societal and cultural context to deepen understanding by completing a problem-based learning collaborative project where they choose a musical career to explore in order to comply with the National Core Art Standards. At the very beginning of implementation of this PBL, my students immediately understood the connections to varied contexts and daily life to enhance their creating, performing, and responding. The program learning outcome was: students complete a music career collaborative project using careersinmusic.com to apply material learned in class to the real world employment opportunities. The learning objective was: the student will choose a music-related career to pursue and draw connections between music curriculum and other disciplines. The materials and technology the students used included the orchestra classroom, electricity and enough outlets so all students could charge their laptop, student laptops, one per student provided by the county, student phones provided by the students, the computer lab, if a plurality of students did not have a laptop, Google Drive, careersinmusic.com, youtube.com, and soundtrap.com. To motivate and engage student interest in the content of the lesson, I used their love for playing their instruments and academic background. Most of the students in my orchestra are interested in attending a magnet high school and college or university. I introduced the PBL with a verbal introduction, then showed a video about music-related careers. Next, I motivated, engaged, and demonstrated the different technologies the students would use to complete the PBL. Many technologies facilitated the music career PBL. Soundtrap worked just like Google Drive, with multiple users sharing a document, except it emphasized adding recordings and other live input into a sound project rather than a Google Doc. Canvas allowed the students to share PowerPoint-style slides for collaborative projects. Google Drive was a game-changing technology, allowing work to be done more efficiently and collaboratively through its simple sharing procedure. I chose groups for my students, then each individual student chose a music-related career to pursue and drew connections between music curriculum and other disciplines. They then completed a musical career collaborative project by exploring careersinmusic.com, choosing a career that most inspired them, then creating a slideshow which explained each chosen career, as well as its relationship to the other careers in the group. The students shared slides using canvas.com. Each group presented their slideshow for a grade as well. The ways that students make sense of the school experience and relate it to their lives outside of school became the focal point for creating this curriculum. Before starting this PBL, I examined and interviewed my students and their situations to determine if they needed differentiated instruction or accommodations. As a collaborative project, the musical career PBL already required support from group members. If certain students needed accommodations to be successful, I delegated what they required for their group members. 2 students with disabilities and/or an IEP could not perform functions for assignments, and I ensured that they contributed as equally as possible without needing to perform those functions. I delegated a couple of their group members to be responsible for accomplishing what they could not do. I also created connections and integrated core classes into this connections PBL. Many of the musical careers the students picked required mathematical skills. Cultural connections with other careers connected the students' presentations with social studies, and the PBL also connected to a couple ELA standards. Some of the students lost focus during the assigned time to complete tasks. Instead of completing their work efficiently, some students would play on their cell phone or walk around the room distracting other groups. I learned how to manage students who were off task by taking them aside individually and firmly reminding them how I calculated their participation grades every day. The off-task behavior came to a head during the presentations because most of the students lacked the skills to be a good presenter as well as a good audience. I utilized advanced organizers to set up the students for success. For example, I sat the audience on the floor while the presenters stood up. This kept the audience at a distance so that they would feel less like participating and more like observing. I also reminded students of the expectations before presentations and how their grades depended on them. In a journal, students wrote the following 3 inquiry questions, then responded to them by writing a 4 complete sentence paragraph underneath each question. Factual, what is a career? Conceptual, how does your instrumental playing help you with your chosen career? And debatable, do certain types of musical talent lend themselves to a different musical career? The students employed their resources to reflect and respond to each inquiry question. I reviewed and assessed each student's journal and guided and facilitated the discussion and debate about musical careers. Additionally, I allowed peers to offer glows and grows after each group's presentation, or feedback and recommendations about their presentation and content. For each of the inquiry questions, the students participated in a class discussion, aka formative assessment, responding to each question. The students also submitted their journals with their 4-paragraph responses to the inquiry questions, so I could record them as a summative assessment. The summative assessment of the actual product of the PBL was to present their PowerPoint slideshow to their peers. In closing, the students completed a musical career collaborative project by exploring careersinmusic.com, choosing a career that most inspires them, then forming small groups to discuss each individual choice, and collaboratively create a slideshow which would explain each chosen career, as well as its relationship to the other careers in the group. After working in small groups for the length of the PBL, the students effectively collaborated on how to present their PBL to the instructor and the class. I collected data from the students which included their feedback, recommendations, and my own recommendations for future implementation of this PBL. Well, thank you very much, Rex Mill Middle School stakeholders, for listening to my presentation. If you have any questions, you are free to ask them now. I know I talked a lot.